Morning, friends. Pastor Chuck Blair here. Great to have you joining me this morning as we continue on looking at the story of creation and how it connects to our lives. And today we're looking at one of the great paradoxes, I think, of the spiritual life. And it's this pretty simple idea, but it's actually one that has a lot of gravitas to it, I find, which is the simple idea that oftentimes in God's economy, nothing gets wasted, and that's real significant. So in God's economy, nothing gets wasted. And I remember when Reverend Shada Sullivan had shared that with me years ago, and I was like, oh yeah, hold on to that one because it's really true. And today we're going to talk about that as we look at how angry can become passionate, how angry can become passionate. Because I think probably most of us wrestle with at least a degree of anger. I know that's been one of my big wrestlings of life. I imagine for many of you joining me today, it's been the same. So it seems like an appropriate topic to talk about. So let's take a look at Genesis here. It's a beautiful line, and I want you to pick up on one word here that really like struck me when I was getting ready for this morning. Genesis 1 verse 30. And this is God saying, okay, so humanity's been created, and I want you to sort of fill the earth, and there's these animals. We talked about thoughts in our heads and birds and all this stuff. There's all these thoughts. It's representative of all our thoughts, and our job is to get some level of control of these things and to allow the good ones to proliferate. So here we are. And every wild animal of the earth, and every bird in the heavens, and every animal creeping on the earth, in which there is a living soul, every green plant will serve them for nourishment. Will serve you for nourishment. So that's there's God's economy right there, saying everything is going to serve for a form of nourishment. And I think so much of our life is really about learning to take responsibility, really, really learning to take responsibility. So we have a million and one thoughts in our head. And while we may not be able to, I was chatting with someone yesterday, we may be able to categorically like stop the thoughts. As I said yesterday, we may well be able to change the traffic flow a little bit. I think that's what God is asking us to do. We may not be able to pick a thought, but we do pick the thoughts we pay attention to. I want to say that carefully. We may not be able to pick a thought, but I think if I'm understanding this correctly, that we really can pick the thoughts that we pay attention to. So be aware of what you pay attention to, and take responsibility around that. Like, I have to be responsible for the thoughts that I'm harboring, the resentments I'm harboring, the anger I'm harboring. And I love, like, guys, look how good this language is, right? Like, sometimes the English language is so beautiful, sometimes a little goofy, but a lot of time beautiful. Like, even the idea, like, all right, here's this thought. Am I going to entertain this thought? In other words, am I going to put it up on stage? Am I going to entertain it? And then think of it this way too, like, what same kind of thing. Not only the negative thoughts that we pay attention to, but the negativity that we harbor. Oh, that's so good, right? That we harbor, that we sort of embrace, and we bring it into the harbor. We bring it into us closely, and that's on us. That's the kind of stuff we have to work on. And God's there to help us do it. And the beautiful part is, in that work, something that is a negative emotion or a negative whatever will be fed in a positive way. Can easily evolve into something far, far, far more positive. So what does that mean? Well, here's where I want to talk about, angry becoming passionate. Angry becomes passionate. So what does that mean? Angry becomes passionate. I know for me, and I don't say this with any bit of pride, anger has been a huge issue for me over the years. And not, thankfully, not nearly as much today as it certainly was in my 20s and 30s. And I just, for those of you who are Enneagram fans, I'm an 8. If you're not an Enneagram fan, that's meaningless for me to even say. But an 8 on the Enneagram, they're going. And it's like there's one line, and it's get out of the way. And that created a lot of real challenges in my life. I mean, I remember a very distinct moment where sort of like, holy cow, this is a little out of control. And I was living in my grandpa's house, and for a summer, and I had misplaced my keys. And so what did I decide to do? What I decided to do was to put my fist through his kitchen table. He had a glass table in his kitchen. Decided to put my fist through it. That's crazy anger. Like, there's nothing good about that. And that's where, again, we got to be careful. We never try to justify that. Like, well, I'm just an angry person. It's just who I am, who God made me to be. Well, all right. God created, yeah, God made you the way you are, and he loves you so much he doesn't want you to stay that way. I think we have to remember that all the time. And God loves you as you are and loves you so much he doesn't want you to stay that way. That's the exact quote. Very good quote to remember. So I can remember, like, literally, like, watching the glass, like, shatter down, and how embarrassing that was, to be able to tell my grandpa, like, Grandpa, the table, I just put my fist through it. And crazy, crazy stuff. So we have to shift this, right, folks? And here's the beautiful part, is that as we work at disciplining our thoughts, and the discipline is not like, I'm not going to have that thought. The discipline is, am I going to harbor that thought? Am I going to pay attention to that thought? Am I going to turn it over and over again in my heart? And we can just have that thought and just let it go. Like, here's that thought. And I don't think we choose a lot of that stuff, to be honest, folks. And then how do I just have the discipline to let it go, to just let it go? And we can do that pretty easily. I mean, there's other places we can put our attention. We can, I'm big on prayer bells, as you guys know. I some days, I might ring a prayer bell 3 or 4 times, just to get rid of a negative thought. And that journey is so important, because it's not that God is looking to, like, deflate you. I hear that sometimes from people who really struggle with certain medications for things like depression. They feel their whole affect has been collapsed. And that's, if you need to take the medication, please do. I don't want to ever tell anybody not to take medication. I think what God is asking of us is not to sort of, like, deflate our personality or deflate our energy. I think he's asking us to redirect it. So he's asking us to take that passion and then use it in positive ways, and to not let it come out sideways. And yeah, so for me, that is very much how I think God's calling me to live, is like, don't live with anger. Take that and learn to live with passion. And that's where I think, with this passage, like, God saying, look, animals, just allow them to be for nourishment for you. And that's the good ones and the bad ones. So I can take anger, I can look at that, I can wrestle with that, and I can use that wrestling to teach me something about passion, a passion that will really help people. And it's the whole difference between, folks, a fire that burns and a fire that warms. And I think we all get, like, anger just burns. It just does. And there are absolute occasions where anger is totally possible. That's known as zeal from a New Church perspective. There are times that that's totally appropriate. And yet, if we live in that place, that's no good. We want to be moving into a place where we live very passionately. So that's my little thought for today, folks. As we move from being angry to becomes passion, angry becomes passion, angry becomes passion. And yeah, and I imagine for a lot of you that'll ring true. So the takeaway for today is real simple. Where you find yourself angry, notice how your brain works around it. And oftentimes your brain will work in a way where hell's more of an influence than heaven. And notice how your brain wants to either pay attention or entertain the thought or harbor the thought. Like, if any of those things start to come up, you end up spinning around. And that's where you're being called to some spiritual work. Spiritual work is to get rid of that particular thought. Like, just don't entertain it. And then to see how that underlying energy can move over here from anger to over here to passion. And notice the good stuff that can happen with that. The good stuff that can happen as we move from what burns to what warms. So that's my thought for today, folks. That's like a whole sermon in itself, which I'll be turning into a sermon at some point. But I hope that makes sense, and hope you're having a great day. So with that, friends, what we're going to do now is we're going to do our little prayer bowl, and have a little thought around that. And or not a thought around it, actually. Just listen to the prayer the prayer, and yeah, we're going to do a little meditation, a little prayer, a little blessing, and then if you'd like to join us on New Church Live's Facebook page, you are more than welcome to do just that. So let's listen to our little prayer bell here. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and bring you peace and bring you home. Amen. All right, dear friends. So let's see what kind of comments we have on this fine morning. Again, you can leave comments on New Church Live's Facebook page, and I will be responding to those. All right. Oh, we got a lot of comments today. All right. So let's get going on these comments. Bonnie, you can shoot me a note and a private message. Teresa, I'm asking God to burn away the harm and leave the gold. Anger is a secondary emotion. There's always something under. Boy, that's really good, Teresa. Yeah, I got to make a note of that for a sermon in the future. Gene, if I can't stop the flow of traffic for a different road, Gene, it's so true. Like I see people so frustrated. Like you just literally can see it in the body language. Like, why can't I control all these thoughts? And my feeling always is because you can't. You can't. You just gotta work on the flow. And Gene, that is really well said. Melissa writes, "Good morning. So inspirational. How to handle those negative thoughts? Very challenging. Are you saying that acknowledging this thought and shift it to a positive, see it and let it go? Prayers in your meditation help tremendously." Yeah, there really is, because it's kind of disarming. It's a little bit of an aside, but I remember you know with some 12-step work, somebody saying, yeah, and if somebody accuses you of something, just saying, yeah, you might be right, because there's humility in that. Yeah, you're a really angry person. Well, yeah, you might be right. Um, that it's kind of acknowledging it and then just kind of letting it go. It's like you can't bring fighting energy to things in the normal way we bring fighting energy to things. I think a lot of fighting energy clearly comes from what burns, not what warms. Linda, yes, it is a radio station. Tune into what feels good, what is loving and compassionate to ourselves. Fire that warms ourselves and others. Great thought. Sully, my classmate, it is great to have you joining us from out of Michigan this morning. Good morning, Chuck. Most of my small group have added this meditation to our prayer practice. Thank you. Well, Sully, it is great to have you joining us this morning. Mary writes, wow, I need to take this in and put into practice. Thanks for the honest grounding. No problem. Carolyn, great to have you joining us from out in Illinois and wishing us all blessings. Thank you for being part of our little morning meditation. Uh, Yeah, Sherry, that's a brilliant point. Sherry writes, Teresa, it is often we're talking about anger being a secondary emotion. It's fear. Isn't that fascinating, right? Like in a primary, secondary. Yeah, there's a lot to think there. Uh, Fire that burns, fire that warms. A gallon of gas could be a lot more beneficial if burned inside a combustion engine as opposed to pouring it on the ground and dropping a match in the puddle. Carl, that preaches, as they say. And you can tell Carl is a preacher because that's really well said. Uh, Lindy writes, good thought today from sunny Florida, where I'm working on controlling unwanted thoughts and focus on the good stuff. So true. And Lindy, yeah, I might be headed down your way, down to Florida to visit some congregants down there. So I sure would love to see you guys if you're around. So folks, just think about that for today. And it really should bring a smile. And just remember, God's not going to waste it, and it's like, and it's progress, not perfection. I still get super angry, like, oh my goodness, and probably most of you have not witnessed that, thankfully. But for those of you who have, my deep apologies, and for those of you who'll be witnessing in the future, I'm aware of my character flaw. I'm doing the best I can today with what I got, which ain't a whole lot. But anyways, thank you folks for joining me. Have a blessed day. Take care. Remember, there's the fire that burns and the fire that warms. Amen. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.